Top of form. 01. Was as oppressive as ice. The head seat at the long conference table was empty, the seat of Chairman Liu Genhua. He was absent today. His daughter, M.Y. wife, the company's president, Liu Wanda, was confidently presiding over the equity distribution meeting. Based on the company's performance contributions over the past year and future development plans, that I propose a new round of equity incentives for the core management team. Liu Wan's voice was clear and crisp, carrying an undeniable air of authority. She wore a well-tailored white suit, that her makeup exquisite, her gaze sweeping over everyone present. Except for me. Her gaze deliberately avoided me, as if I were nothing. My name is Chun Mo, the co-founder of this company, and Liu Wan's husband. Since university, she, along with several other partners, have turned a campus project into a tech company worth billions. I was in charge of technology, and she was in charge of marketing. I once thought we were a match made in heaven. Technical director, Zhang Yang. Liu Wan's gaze fell on the young man beside her, her voice unconsciously softening. Over the past year, Zhang Yang led the team to overcome key challenges in AI algorithms, creating tremendous value for the company. I propose granting Zhang Yang 12% of the equity. The words caused a stir. 12%. This was practically founder-level treatment. Zhang Yang had only joined the company a year ago. While his abilities were indeed impressive, this number was astonishing. All eyes instinctively turned to me. I was the company's chief technology officer. Zhang Yang was my subordinate. I saw the barely suppressed elation on Zhang Yang's face. He even gave me a defiant look. I remained expressionless, but my heart felt like it was being clenched by an icy hand. Next is CTO Chun Mo. Liu Wan finally called my name. Her tone is flat, as if she were talking about an insignificant stranger. Chun Mo, as a veteran of the company, has made great contributions. However, considering his recent health condition and his future gradual withdrawal from frontline RD, she paused, seemingly searching for the right word. I propose granting Chun Mo 2% of the shares as recognition of his past contributions. 2%. This number pierced my ears like a needle. I've toiled for this company for 10 years, from nothing to the eve of its IPO. My blood, my youth, everything I have, it's all been poured into this place. Now that I'm only worth 2%. And a subordinate who's only been here a year gets 12%. How absurd. I saw a barely perceptible sneer curl at the corner of Liu Wan's mouth. I understood. This wasn't equity incentive. It was humiliation. It was a carefully orchestrated trap to kick me out. I didn't speak, nor did I look at anyone. I simply stood up slowly. The chair scraped against the floor, making a screeching sound, exceptionally clear in the silent conference room. All eyes were on me. Liu Wan frowned. Chun Mo, what are you doing? The meeting isn't over yet. I ignored her and walked straight towards the conference room door. This place, this company, this relationship. At this moment, everything made me feel utterly disgusted. Just as my hand was about to touch the doorknob, a figure rushed in from outside and blocked my way. It was the chairman's secretary, Secretary Wang. He was sweating profusely, and his tone was urgent. President Chun, don't rush off. The chairman hasn't given his opinion yet. I paused. Turning around, I saw that Liu Wan's face had instantly lost all color, and she froze on the spot. 02. Liu Wan's expression became incredibly complex in that instant. Shock, astonishment, and a hint of barely concealed panic. She clearly hadn't expected her father, who should have been resting at home, to intervene at this moment. Uncle Wang, my dad, isn't he supposed to be resting? Why is this such a small matter bothering him? Liu Wan forced a smile, trying to maintain the president's composure. Secretary Wang didn't even glance at her, his gaze fixed on me, his attitude respectful and earnest. President Chun, the chairman, is waiting for you. He said that any changes regarding shareholding must be made in your presence, otherwise they are invalid. These words exploded like a bombshell in the conference room. Invalid. These 4 words were tantamount to completely negating all of Liu Wan's previous decisions in front of all the core executives. I could clearly feel Liu Wan clenching her fists, her knuckles turning white from the force. The stage she had carefully prepared had been dismantled by her most revered father with just a single sentence. Looking at her, I felt no pleasure, only a cold desolation. Once upon a time, we were lovers fighting side by side, each other's strongest support. When did I end up needing her father to seek justice for me? Understood. I replied curtly to Secretary Wang that then turned and walked back to my seat. I didn't sit down, but stood there, my gaze calmly sweeping across the room. It swept over the looks that had just been filled with pity, schadenfreude, or indifference. Finally, my gaze landed on Zhang Yang's face. The ecstasy on his face had vanished, replaced by unease and suspicion. He looked at Lu Wan, his eyes questioning. Lu Wan avoided his gaze, her face ashen. The atmosphere in the conference room shifted from oppressive to eerie. No one spoke. Lu Wan's authority as president had vanished the moment Secretary Wang appeared. I pulled out a chair, sat down, leaned back, and crossed my arms in front of me. I was no longer the loser preparing to leave in dejection. Now I was the one personally chosen by the chairman to stay. President Lu. I spoke, my voice not loud, but loud enough for everyone to hear clearly. Since the chairman has given new instructions, shouldn't the previous proposal be reconsidered? I looked directly at Lu Wan, revealing my undisguised sharpness to her for the first time. Or rather, does President Lu believe that your decision can supersede the board's decision? Lu Wan's body trembled violently, her lips moved, but she couldn't utter a single word. She knew that my words were no longer questioning her allocation plan, but questioning her qualifications as president. She had lost the first round. Lost unexpectedly and utterly. Secretary Wang cleared his throat at the opportune moment. Everyone, the chairman will be here shortly. Please wait a moment. After saying this, he stood respectfully at the conference room door, like a gatekeeper, preventing anyone from leaving early. Lu Wan slumped down, knowing that she could no longer continue this charade. The real show was just beginning. Chairman Lu Jinhua arrived 5 minutes later. He didn't use a wheelchair. He walked in, his steps slow but steady and powerful. Secretary Wang followed closely behind, carrying a thermos. Lu Jinhua's gaze swept across the room like a hawk's, and all the executives unconsciously straightened their backs. This was the pillar of strength. Even though he was semi-retired, as long as he was present, the company still belonged to the Lu family, but not to Lu Wan. His gaze swept over Lu Wan and Zhang Yang's faces, carrying a hint of barely perceptible disappointment and coldness. Finally, his gaze landed on me, becoming much gentler. Amo, sit down. He gestured to the seat next to him. That seat was usually reserved for the company's second-in-command. I didn't say anything, stood up, walked over, and sat down next to him. This action itself was a statement. Lu Wan's face paled even more. Lu Jinhua didn't look at her, but instead unscrewed the thermos, took a sip of hot tea, and then slowly spoke. I'm here today to say only 3 things. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. First, I disagree with the equity distribution plan Warner just proposed. His tone was calm, yet it was like a resounding slap across Lu Wan's face. Company equity is for rewarding those who have truly risked their lives and shed blood for the company, not for favoritism or forming cliques. Lu Wan lowered her head even further, almost burying it in her chest. Zhang Yang was even more restless, cold sweat already beading on his forehead. Second, regarding Director Zhang Yang. Lu Jinhua's gaze turned to Zhang Yang, who jolted awake and abruptly looked up. I've read the report on your abilities. They are indeed impressive. But your contributions don't justify a 12% stake. Lu Jinhua paused, his eyes sharpening. Young man, ambition is good, but you must walk the right path. You won't go far by resorting to crooked means. Zhang Yang's face flushed red and then paled, his lips trembling. He wanted to say something, but under Lu Jinhua's gaze he couldn't utter a single word. I propose granting Zhang Yang 1% stock options, vesting over 4 years. If you have any objections, you can raise them now. From 12% equity to 1% stock options. One was heaven, the other earth. Zhang Yang's face instantly turned deathly pale. He looked at Lu Wan pleadingly, but Lu Wan didn't dare meet her father's gaze. I have no objections. Zhang Yang practically gritted his teeth, squeezing out these words. He knew he had no choice. Very good. Lu Jinhua nodded in satisfaction, then looked at me. Everyone in the conference room seemed to hold their breath. They were all waiting for the chairman to give me his verdict. Third, regarding Chen Mo. Lu Jinhua's voice became more serious than ever before. Chen Mo is the co-founder of the company and the technological cornerstone of Qingtian technology. Without him, the company wouldn't be where it is today. He spoke each word with conviction. I proposed that on my own behalf and in the name of the board of directors, Chen Mo be granted 30% of the company's shares. Boom. The entire conference room erupted in chaos. 04. 30%. This number exploded in everyone's mind like an atomic bomb. Everyone looked at Lu Jinhua with the eyes of someone looking at a madman, then turned to me, their eyes filled with shocked incomprehension, and even jealousy. Xingtian Technology was about to go public, and everyone present knew what 30% of the shares meant. That would be a fortune of tens of billions. A number that could drive anyone crazy. Dad, you're crazy. Luan couldn't hold back any longer. She stood up abruptly and screamed, "You're giving him 30% of the shares? What about me? I'm your daughter, the president of the company." Her voice became shrill with agitation, completely losing its previous calm and authority. "How many shares do you own? Are you giving the company to him?" Lu Jinhua looked at her coldly, his eyes full of disappointment. "Sit down." "No." Lu Wan's emotions completely spiraled out of control. "Why? Why does Chen Mo deserve so much? He's just a lousy coder. I built this company with all my hard work, I built the market myself, I secured the clients myself. Why does he get so much?" She pointed at me, her fingers trembling violently with anger. I looked at her quietly, this woman I had loved for 10 years. So familiar, yet so strange. So I in her heart I was just a lousy coder. So my 10 years of painstaking effort, working through the night, that were worthless in her eyes. My heart died completely at that moment. Slap. A crisp slap echoed throughout the conference room. Lu Jinhua stood up, his chest heaving violently. He pointed at Lu Wan, trembling with rage. "You bastard. Say that again." Lu Wan covered her face, looking at her father in disbelief. From childhood to adulthood, he had never laid a finger on her. "Do you think you could hold on to this president's position without Chen Mo?" Lu Jinhua's voice was filled with fury. "Do you think those investors, those tech gurus, came because of you? They came for Chen Mo. For Chen Mo's influence in the tech field. It's because you value him that I entrusted the company to you. And what about you? What did you do? You're willing to kick your husband, the company's pillar, out for some unknown nobody? You're destroying your own foundation." Every word from Lu Jinhua was like a heavy hammer blow to Lu Wan's heart. All color drained from her face, and she swayed precariously. I stood up. Everyone's eyes turned to me. I didn't look at Lu Jinhua, nor at Lu Wan. I simply spoke calmly. "Chairman, I appreciate your kindness." My voice was soft, yet carried an undeniable resolve. "However, I cannot accept this 30% stake." Lu Jinhua was stunned. Lu Wan was stunned too. Everyone was stunned. No one expected me to refuse. Meeting Lu Jinhua's puzzled gaze, I slowly and deliberately said, word by word, "What I want is not shares. What I want is my own share. I propose a liquidation and division of the company's assets. I will take with me all the core technologies and patents I led the development of as well as the entire AI R&D team I built from scratch. From this day forward, Xingtian Technology will have nothing to do with me. Chen Mo." After I finished speaking, the entire conference room fell into a deathly silence. If Lu Jinhua's proposal was an atomic bomb, then my words were a planetary collision capable of destroying everything. What I want is not money. What I want is to undermine the company. What I want is to take away the soul of this company. 05. Dead silence. The conference room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Lu Wan's eyes were wide open, staring at me as if I were a demon crawling out of hell. "Chen Mo, how dare you?" She screamed, her voice shrill. "That technology is company assets. The team is company employees. What right do you have to take it away?" I looked at her coldly. "What right?" "Because every line of that core code was typed by my own hand. Because my name is listed as the inventor of those patents. Because I personally interviewed and trained every member of the AI team." I turned to the other executives present. "You can all open the company's technical documentation library right now and look at the underlying architecture of those core algorithms. Besides me, who else can understand it, maintain it, and iterate on it?" No one spoke. The heads of the technical department silently lowered their heads. They knew better than anyone that what I said was true. Xingtian Technology's success today was due to the Tian Shu AI system I developed. It was the culmination of 10 years of hard work, its complexity and foresight far surpassing its competitors. To maintain absolute technological leadership and secrecy, that I almost single-handedly completed the core architecture. Taking it away is tantamount to taking away the future of Qingtian technology. This is betrayal. This is commercial extortion. Lu Wan roared angrily. Betrayal? I laughed at my laughter full of sarcasm. President Lu. When you humiliated me with 2% of the shares, why didn't you talk about betrayal? When you were having an affair with a male subordinate and trying to kick me out, why didn't you talk about betrayal then? My gaze turned to Zhang Yang, whose face was deathly pale. Director Zhang. Of the 12% of shares you received, how much was a reward for your technical breakthroughs, and how much was for your other special contributions? Zhang Yang's body trembled violently, his eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. The implications of this sentence were understood by everyone present. In an instant, all the gazes directed at Lu Wan and Zhang Yang became playful. Lu Jinhua's face was so gloomy it could drip water. He looked at his daughter, his disappointment turning into utter coldness. Chinemo, Lu Jinhua began, his voice hoarse. Did it really have to come to this? I could hear the pleading and exhaustion in his voice. I held this old man in high regard. During the most difficult time of my startup, he was the one who defied all opposition and gave me my first investment. It was also he who married his daughter to me. I took a deep breath, looked at him, my tone softening slightly, but my attitude remained resolute. Chairman, it's not that I wanted to go this far. It's Mr. Lu who forced me to this point. This company is like my child. But now someone wants to kill my child and then offer me $2 as compensation. I can't do that. Rather than let it rot away in someone else's hands, I'd rather take it with me and give it a new future. My words were unwavering. Lu Jinhua fell silent. He slowly closed his eyes, leaned back in his chair, his face filled with exhaustion and desolation. He knew I had made up my mind. He also knew that what I said was the truth. Without me, Qingtian technology is just an empty shell. After a long silence, he opened his eyes and looked at me. I promise you. Those 3 words struck Lu Wan like a thunderbolt. Dad. But Lu Jinhua ignored her and continued, I have a condition. Go ahead. I don't object to you taking the technology and team, but you can't take the company's brand, market channels, or customer resources. And within 3 years, your new company cannot directly compete with Qingtian technology in its existing business. This was his bottom line as chairman. It was also the last bit of dignity he'd, as a father, wanted to preserve for his daughter. He wanted to use the market to exchange for my technology. He wanted to give Lu Wan and Qingtian technology a chance to breathe and transform within 3 years. I looked at his gray hair and the pleading in his eyes. My heart softened. Okay, I nodded. I promise you. Receiving my promise, Lu Jinhua seemed to have all his strength drained away, and his whole body relaxed. He waved his hand. The meeting is adjourned. The specific division plan will be discussed by the lawyers. With that, he stood up shakily, supported by Secretary Wang, and walked towards the door. As he passed Lu Wan, he paused, not looking at her, but using all his strength to say, You've disappointed me greatly. Lu Wan's body slumped back into the chair. 06. Gradually left. Each person who left looked at me with complex emotions. Regret, and an undisguised schadenfreude. They knew that the future of Qingtian technology was about to change. Soon, only Lu Wan, Zhang Yang, whose face was deathly pale, and I remained in the large meeting room. The tension from before seemed to have vanished, leaving only a suffocating silence. Lu Wan sat there blankly, like a soulless statue. Her father's slap, break with him, the chairman's verdict. A series of blows had completely broken her. I didn't look at her and started packing my things. A laptop, then another. These were all my personal belongings in this meeting room. Why? Lu Wan finally spoke, her voice hoarse, trembling with a hint of brokenness. All our years of relationship can't withstand a single stock distribution? I stopped what I was doing, turned around, and looked at her. I felt a little ridiculous. Relationship? I countered. You were flirting with Zhang Yang in the office, talking to me about feelings? Lu Wan's face turned deathly pale. How did you know? If you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place. I said calmly. President Liu, that you don't naively think the company's surveillance system is just for show.dou? I'm the CTO of this company. I personally built the entire company's network and security system. I know better than anyone where the loopholes and backdoors are. I just haven't wanted to face it. I kept telling myself that she was just under too much work pressured, it just getting a little too close to her subordinates. I've been deceiving myself. Until today, those 2% of the shares were like a resounding slap in the face, completely waking me up. Luan's body trembled violently. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear. She never imagined that what she thought was her most secret was already exposed to me. So, today, you did it on purpose? She asked through gritted teeth, each word distinct. You knew everything all along, so you deliberately waited for me to embarrass myself at the board meeting? I looked at her, suddenly feeling utterly disillusioned. Even now that she was still arguing about who embarrassed whom. It doesn't matter anymore. I shook my head and picked up my laptop. From the moment I decided to leave, all of this has nothing to do with me anymore. I didn't want to get entangled with her any longer. It was pointless. I turned to leave. Chinemo. Luan suddenly stood up, rushed to me, and grabbed my arm. Her eyes were bloodshot, filled with a hint of crazed obsession. You can't leave. What will happen to the company if you leave? That's your problem, President Liu. I tried to break free from her grasp. No, this is your problem too. She gripped me tightly, her nails almost digging into my flesh. This company is something we founded together. It's our life's work. How can you just leave like that? Life's work? I looked at her, dim, eyes now only filled with coldness. The moment you decided to give me 2% of the shares, that you destroyed all our hard work with your own hands. I was just confused for a moment. Luan's voice trembled with a sob. I was just angry that you haven't cared about me or the company lately. I wanted to provoke you. I didn't mean to do anything to you. What a weak and feeble excuse. Even now, she was still trying to argue. I looked at her and suddenly felt very tired. Let go. My voice was as cold as ice. No. Chinemo, I beg you, don't go. She started to cry, tears streaming down her delicate makeup, leaving a trail of disheveled beauty. Just then, Zhang Yang, who had been standing silently to the side, suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Luan's other arm. Wanted, don't beg him. He looked at me, his eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. He doesn't love you at all. He only cares about his code. We can still make the company successful without him. That Warner was called so intimately. At that moment, even the last vestige of hesitation in my heart vanished. I abruptly shook off Luan's hand, the force causing her to stagger back 2 steps before crashing into Zhang Yang's arms. Watching them embrace each other, I felt an overwhelming sense of irony. I wish you a long and happy marriage, I said, then turned and walked out of the conference room without looking back. Behind me, I heard Luan's desperate cries. I didn't turn back, not even a step. The afternoon sun was a bit blinding as I stepped out of the Qingtian Technology Building. I squinted and took a deep breath. The air was free of the stuffy smell of central air conditioning, carrying a refreshing sense of freedom. 10 years. I had dedicated almost all my time to this building, that dream called Qingtian. Now that the dream was over, I took out my phone, ignoring the dozens of missed calls and unread messages, and dialed a number directly. The call was quickly answered, and a cheerful voice came through. Hey, Chinemo. You busy man, what brings you to call me? On the other end of the line was my college classmate and best friend, Fatty Zhao. He was also a tech genius. After graduation, he didn't go to a big company, but started his own small studio, doing some software outsourcing, living a carefree life. Fatty, let's go for a drink. My voice was a little hoarse. Fatty Zhao immediately sensed something was wrong. What's wrong? You sound like you've lost your soul. Did you have a fight with your partner? We broke up, I said. What? A few seconds of silence followed on Fatty Zhao's, and then a gasp of disbelief erupted. Broken up? Holy crap. Wait, weren't you two practically a model couple? How could you just break up like that? What happened? It's a long story. I'm leaving Qingtian. What? Fatty Zhao's voice rose another octave. You're leaving Qingtian? Are you kidding me? Isn't that company your own son? You're willing to let go? Nothing to be reluctant about. I looked at the bustling street, my tone calm. My son's grown up. He wants someone else to be his father, I his biological father to have to get lost. Fatty Zhao fell silent again. He knew my personality. Unless something truly terrible had happened that I would never say something like that. Where are you? I'll come find you. His voice turned serious. The usual place, the barbecue place on the corner. Okay, wait for me for half an hour. I hung up, hailed a taxi, and gave him the address. Half an hour later, I met Fatty Zhao, who had rushed over to a greasy table in the barbecue restaurant. He was still the same, round and chubby, his t-shirt bulging from his beer belly. He plopped down half a bottle of beer, and then looked at me, panting heavily. Tell me, what happened? I didn't speak, but simply picked up my bottle, filled it, and downed it in one gulp. The cold liquid slid down my throat, but it couldn't extinguish the fire in my heart. I told him everything that had happened in the meeting room that day, from the humiliation of the 2% equity stake to the chairman's intervention, and then to my decision to take the technology and team and completely divide the company. The more Fatty Zhao listened, the uglier his face became. At the end, he slammed his hand on the table, making the skewers on it jump. This is outrageous, he shouted, his face flushed with anger. That Lu Wan and that Zhang Guy are a pair of dogs. A pair of ungrateful people. He looked at me, his eyes filled with heartache. Brother, you've wasted the last 10 years of your life. I gave a bitter laugh and drank another glass of wine. It's no use talking about this now. How is it no use? Fatty Zhao glared at me. You shouldn't have agreed to that old fox Lu Genhua. What kind of bullshit 3-year non-competition agreement? He was setting a trap for you, giving you time to undermine him. You should have just sued them and taken back everything that belonged to you. I shook my head. Fatty, you don't understand. Qingtian Technology, after all, represents 10 years of my hard work. Lu Genhua, after all, that has been kind to me. I don't want to go too far. Besides, lawsuits are time-consuming and exhausting. By the time the lawsuit is over, the technology will be outdated, the team will be disbanded, and I'll have nothing left. I looked at him, a glimmer of light rekindling in my eyes. I have the skills, the team, and the freedom. Why should I waste my time on worthless people and worthless things? What I want to do is start over, build a company that truly belongs to me. I want them to see that without me, they are nothing. I want them to regret it. My voice wasn't loud, but every word seemed to burst forth from my chest. Fatty Zhao stared at me, stunned. He saw the dejection and pain in my eyes fading, replaced by a sharp and resolute light he had never seen before. It was the kind of desperate resolve born of being driven to the brink. He suddenly laughed. Good. He patted my shoulder heavily. Well said. That's the Chun Mo I know. He raised his glass. Damn it, it's just starting a new business. Count me in. Forget your lousy studio. Call all the brothers. Let's go all out. You be the CEO. I'll be your CTO. No, I'll be your slave. Looking at his flushed face, I felt a warmth in my heart. I raised my glass and clinked it heavily with his. Good brother. The crisp sound of the glasses clinking was like a bugle call. My war officially began from this moment. The next few days I worked almost nonstop. My first priority was to reassure the team. I gathered all the core members of the AI R&D department in a conference room at a hotel near the company. These were people I had personally trained. Some were top-tier tech talents I poached from large companies, others were prodigies recruited from top universities. They followed me not for the name of Qingtian Technology, but for me as a person and for the technological blueprint I had built. When I announced that I would be leaving Qingtian, taking the entire team and all core technologies with me to start my own business, the conference room erupted in uproar. Brother Chin, what happened? Yet why so suddenly? Has President Liu agreed? Everyone was talking at once, their eyes filled with shock and unease. I gestured for silence. The situation is complicated. I can only tell you that I have an irreconcilable difference in philosophy with the company. I didn't mention the dirty dealings between Lu Wan and Zhang Yang. There was no need. Mixing personal grudges with work wasn't my style. I've called everyone here today not to force you, but simply to inform you. I looked at each of you sincerely. I'm going to establish a new company to continue the unfinished development of our Tianshu System 2.0. I'll give half of the initial equity to all the brothers who are willing to work with me. Of course, that you can also choose to stay with Qingtian. After all, Qingtian is a large company with a stable platform and excellent benefits. I respect everyone's choice. I'll give you 3 days to consider. After 3 days, those who are willing to come with me, come to this address. Those who aren't, we can still be friends. After saying this, I bowed deeply. Thank you all for your support over the past few years. No one spoke. They were all looking at me, their eyes flickering, clearly engaged in a fierce internal struggle. On one side was a successful, soon-to-be listed large company. On the other was a fledgling team with an uncertain future starting from scratch. Choosing was a difficult decision. I didn't say anything more and turned to leave the meeting room. I had said what I needed to say. The rest was up to them to decide. As I left the hotel, I received a call from my lawyer. Mr. Chun. The legal team from Qingtian Technology has contacted me. They've proposed very harsh conditions for your asset division. Speak, I said calmly. First, they only acknowledge that the core code of the Tianshu system version 1.0 belongs to you personally, but subsequent iterative development is considered company worked and the results should belong to the company. Second, that the employment contracts of the team members are all with Qingtian. You cannot unilaterally take them away. If you insist on poaching them, they will invoke non-compete agreements and pursue your legal liability. Third, that regarding your marital property with Ms. Lu Wan. The lawyer paused. Ms. Lu Wan has filed for divorce and applied for property preservation. She claims that all Qingtian shares under your name, as well as other assets you acquired during the marriage, are marital property and demands an equal division. I listened and laughed. A cold laugh. What a Lu Wan. What a cunning move. Unable to win in the meeting, she resorts to legal means to harass me behind my back. Does she think she can trap me like this? Tell them, I said, gazing at the towering skyscraper of Skytech in the distance, word by word. That will see you in court. 3 days later, I stood in a somewhat empty office. This was a temporary office that Fatty Zhao had rented for me, located in a tech startup park. The rent was cheap, and the environment was decent. Fatty Zhao stood beside me, looking at the door with some worry. Hey, Lao Chen. Are the brothers coming? He rubbed his hands, looking even more nervous than me. Qingtian has really gone all out. I heard Lu Wan gave double bonuses to everyone in the AI department and promised additional stock options after the IPO. A generous reward will surely bring forth brave men. I didn't speak, just quietly looked out the window. Today was the agreed deadline. From 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Not a single person came. It would be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed. That was the team I had built from scratch, the soldiers I had poured countless hours of effort into. I thought that between us there was more than just an employer-employee relationship. There was also a shared ideal and a bond. But reality seemed to be crueler than I had imagined. Damn it. Fatty Zhao couldn't help but curse. Those bastards, they're heartless. How did you manage to pull them all out of the mire? Now that you're down on your luck, they're running away faster than anyone else. Forget it. I patted his shoulder and forced a smile. Everyone has their own ambitions that you can't force them. We can do it even without them. Do it, my ass. Fatty Zhao looked worried. Tianshu system is so massive. How long will it take the two of us to complete it? Old Chun. How about? We lower the difficulty a bit? Start small? I shook my head. No. My eyes hardened again. Either don't do it, or do it the best. I want to produce Tianshu 2.0 in the shortest amount of time. I want Qingtian Technology to be unable to even see my back. But people. Fatty Zhao wanted to say something. Just then, the office door was pushed open. A young face peeked in, with a timid expression on its face. It was Li Hang, the intern I recruited from the university 2 years ago, a young man with exceptional talent in algorithms. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Chun, brother Chun. He scratched his head, a little embarrassed. I'm not late, am I? I stared at him, stunned. Fatty Zhao was also stunned. Then, a flurry of footsteps sounded outside the door. A second, a third, a fourth. Familiar faces appeared one after another. Zhang L, EI.my chief architect, a composed middle-aged man. Wu Jing, the only woman in our team, a master of data analysis. And Wang Tao, Sun Yu, Lu Yang. The core members of the AI R&D department, more than 30 people, all present. Each of them carried a cardboard box. Inside were their personal belongings left at Qingtian Technology. They looked at me, their eyes no longer filled with hesitation and unease, only a resolute determination. Zhang Lei walked in front, placing his box heavily on the ground, looking at me with a grin. Brother Chin. Sorry we're late. I was dealing with those bastards and got delayed while handling my resignation. From today onwards, we're following you. Yeah, following Brother Chun. Wherever Brother Chun goes, we go. Damn it, what a load of crap. Double bonus. I don't care. I just can't stand that smug Zhang guy's attitude. A group of people chattered excitedly. I looked at them, their sincere and determined faces. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. I blinked hard, holding back the tears. I stepped forward and gave Zhang Lei a big hug. Good brother. Then I turned to everyone. My voice trembling slightly with emotion. I Chen Mo hereby swear. Today you chose me. In the future I will never let you down. Fatty Zhao standing to the side was already in tears. He rushed over grabbed Zhang Lei and me by the neck and burst into laughter. Ha ha. Good. Great. With these brothers here, what are we afraid of? Qingtian technology, what a joke. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the simple office and everyone's faces. I knew that from this moment on, I was no longer fighting alone. Behind me stood an iron army capable of overturning the entire industry. 10 was solved, but an even bigger problem followed. Money. Setting up the company required money. Renting servers required money. And paying the salaries of dozens of brothers required even more. Although I had shares in Qingtian technology, most of them were frozen in my account under Lu Wan's asset preservation order. And I couldn't touch a single penny. The cash I had plus all of Zhao Pengzi's savings was only enough to support the team for 3 months at most. If we couldn't find investment within 3 months, we would be completely out of money. Damn it, Lu Wan's move was too vicious. Zhao Pengzi slammed his fist on the table. She calculated that we wouldn't last long and wanted to drag us down. I sat in front of the computer. My brow furrowed. On the screen was the architecture diagram of Tianshu 2.0, densely packed and incredibly complex. This was my trump card. My only bargaining chip. We can't just sit here and wait to die. I said in a deep voice. Fatty. Help me schedule meetings with all the investors we've contacted before. Sequoia.idg, Hill House, anything top tier. Meet with them. Fatty Zhao hesitated. Old Chin. Have you forgotten? That old fox Lu Jinhua has a gentleman's agreement with us. For 3 years we can't compete with Qingtian in our existing business. Qingtian's main business is enterprise-level AI solutions based on Tianshu 1.0. Our Tianshu 2.0, while stronger, is essentially in the same market. Those investors are shrewd. They wouldn't risk offending Qingtian and Lu Jinhua for our sake. Of course I knew. Lu Jinhua's moved seemingly generous was actually ruthless. He let me go, but cut off all my financing channels. He wanted to slowly wear me down without external funding. I know. I nodded. So we can't talk to them about enterprise-level solutions. Then what should we talk about? Fatty Zhao asked, puzzled. I turned to look at him and said word by word. We're talking about embodied intelligence. Embedded intelligence? Fatty Zhao's eyes widened, as if he'd heard something out of the blue. Old Chin. Are you out of your mind? That thing is still in the lab stage, far from commercialization. And it requires massive amounts of funding and top-tier hardware support. It burns through money even faster than large AI models. Our current resources aren't even enough to fill a gap in our teeth. I know it burns through money. My eyes gleamed with an almost insane light. But don't forget that the underlying architecture of the Tianshu system was designed by me for general artificial intelligence. It can not only process online data, it can also interact with the physical world in real time. Tianshu 2.0 will no longer be a purely software system. It will be a super brain that can empower all hardware. What I'm going to do isn't another Qingtian technology. What I'm going to do is create a completely new species. I'm going to redefine AI. Fatty Zhao was dumbfounded by my words. He looked at me, thinking I was a madman. A madman who dared to challenge the entire industry. But for some reason, his blood began to boil involuntarily. Okay. He swallowed, his voice a little dry. I'll fucking go crazy with you. I'm going to contact those investors right now. I want to see if they choose Lu Wan, that empty shell, or our brand new future. For the next week, I took a PPT with only a dozen pages and started a crazy roadshow with Fatty Zhao. The result was pretty much what I expected. Cruel. Mr. Chun. Your idea is very avant-garde, but the risk is too high. Body embodied intelligence. This concept is too abstract that we can't see a clear business model. I'm sorry that our fund's investment strategy is more inclined towards mature projects. Mr. Chun. If I may be frank, that we dare not invest in you until your dispute with Qingtian Technology is completely resolved. Rejection after rejection. Bucket after bucket of cold water. Those investors who once greeted me with smiles and treated me like an honored guest now all wore cold, businesslike faces. They were optimistic about my skills, but even more afraid of Qingtian Technology's strength and Lu Jinhua's connections. No one was willing to offend a fully established behemoth for an uncertain future. After a week that we had gained nothing, the team's morale began to decline. Although no one said it, that I could feel the confusion and anxiety about the future spreading in the office. That night that we returned empty-handed again, Fatty Zhao and I sat on the steps by the roadside, each holding a can of ice-cold beer. Old Chin. Maybe. Let's just give up. Fatty Zhao sighed, his voice full of exhaustion. Let's be realistic. Take on some outsourcing projects. And keep the brothers alive first. I didn't say anything, just silently drank my beer. The evening breeze blew by, carrying a slight chill. Just as I was feeling disheartened, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered. Hello. Is this Mr. Chinemo? A clear and pleasant female voice came from the other end of the line. Yes, that's me. Hello. My name is Qin Jixia. I'm very interested in your body-embodied intelligence project. Could we meet? 11. Qin Jixia. This name, I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. I racked my brain, and finally a name popped into my head. Huame Capital, Qin Jixia. The legendary woman known in the investment world as the Ice Queen. It's said she has a sharp eye and acts decisively. Almost every project she sets her sights on becomes an industry giant. But she's extremely low-key and rarely appears in public. How did she find me? Miss Qin. Hello. I suppressed my surprise and tried to make my voice sound calm. I wonder where you learned about my project? My roadshows are always conducted on a small scale. Logically, the news shouldn't have spread this quickly. A soft laugh came from the other end of the phone. Mr. Chun. There are no secrets in this world. Her voice was calm, yet carried an all-knowing confidence. I've been following your Tian Shu system for a long time, ever since its 1.0 version was released. My heart skipped a beat. This person is not simple. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., China World Trade Center Phase 3, with the revolving restaurant on the top floor. Do you have time? She didn't give me much time to think, extending the invitation directly. Yes, I answered almost subconsciously. I knew this might be my only chance. After hanging up, Fatty Zhao immediately came over. Who was that? Sounds like a beautiful woman. Huame Capital, Qin Jixia. Who? Fatty Zhao's eyes almost popped out. Qin Jixia. That legendary Midas touch? Why would she contact you? I don't know either. I shook my head, equally filled with doubt. She said she's interested in our project. Holy crap. Fatty Zhao jumped 3 feet high, his fatigue vanishing, replaced by extreme excitement. Old Chen, our luck is about to change. This is Qin Jixia. As long as she's willing to invest, let alone 1 Qingtian, even 10 Qingshans, we're not afraid. I wasn't as optimistic as him. Someone of Qin Jixia's caliber would never act lightly. There must be a deeper reason behind her seeking me out. The next day, I arrived at the rooftop restaurant of the China World Trade Center Phase 3 half an hour early. I met Qin Jixia. She was younger than I had imagined, looking no more than 30. She wore a simple black business suit, her long hair pulled back, and her face was free of excessive makeup, yet she exuded a powerful aura. She sat by the window, holding a cup of coffee, quietly gazing at the city skyline outside. It was as if the entire bustling metropolis was beneath her gaze. Miss Qin. I approached and greeted her politely. She turned around, her gaze falling on me. They were very beautiful eyes, clear and bright, yet like deep pools, unfathomable. Mr. Qin. Please have a seat. She gestured to the seat opposite her. Without any pleasantries, she got straight to the point. I've seen your project proposal. She pushed a document in front of me, my PPT, which had been rejected by countless people. The idea is good, but too idealistic. Her assessment was incisive. You only said what you want to do, but not how. The technology roadmap, hardware selection, supply chain integration, commercialization, these are all blanks. The pie you're painting is too big, too unrealistic. Most investors wouldn't dare take it. I listened quietly, without rebuttal. Because what she said was true. But she changed the subject, leaning forward slightly, her gaze fixed intently on me. I dare. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Because I believe you're the only one who can turn this pie into reality. She smiled, a hint of admiration in her smile. I'm not betting on the project, I'm betting on you. Chun Mo, former CTO of Qingtian Technology, father of the Tian Shu system, in absolute authority in the domestic AI field. For his ideals, he didn't hesitate to break with the company he founded, leaving with nothing, starting from scratch. She knew me inside and out. I really like your story. So, I looked at her. You're going to invest in me? Yes. She nodded. 500 million for 30% of your new company. Huame Capital will connect you with the world's top hardware supply chain resources. But I have a condition. Go ahead. I want you to produce a mass-producible prototype of the first-generation embodied intelligent robot equipped with the Tian Shu 2.0 system within a year. And she paused, her eyes sharpening. To completely defeat Qingtian Technology within 3 years. I looked at her. A storm raging within me. 500 million. The world's top supply chain. Her conditions were unbelievably generous. But her demands were equally demanding, bordering on insane. A prototype within a year. Defeating Qingtian within 3 years. This was no longer a business investment. It was more like a high-stakes gamble. Why Qingtian? I asked, voicing my biggest question. Do you have a grudge against Qingtian, or rather, against the Liu family? Qin Jixia picked up her coffee, took a sip, and didn't directly answer my question. She simply looked out the window and said calmly, I just simply don't like the way they do things. Her tone was flat, but I detected a deep-seated, chilling hatred in her voice. I understood. She wasn't an angel investor. She was an avenger. What she needed wasn't an investment project. What she needed was a knife. A sharp knife capable of piercing the heart of Qingtian Technology. And I was the one she had chosen to wield that knife. Very well. I like this role. I extended my hand. Pleasure doing business with you. Qin Jixia looked at me and extended her hand as well. Our hands clasped tightly together in the air. The 1.25 billion yuan investment arrived faster than I could have imagined. Qin Jixia's style, like her personality, is decisive and efficient, never dragging her feet. The moment the funds arrived, I immediately did 3 things. First, I paid all the brothers their back pay for last month, and gave each of them an extra 100,000 yuan settling in allowance. When Fatty Zhao handed out envelopes full of cash to everyone, the entire office erupted in cheers. The gloom and anxiety that had hung over the team for days vanished. I wanted to show them in the most direct way. Follow me, and you'll reap the rewards. Second, I had Fatty Zhao immediately rent the top supercomputing center in the country to provide the strongest computing power support for the development of Tian Shu 2.0. Money is money, but technological research and development cannot be compromised on hardware. Third, in the name of the new company, I rented an entire floor of office space in the prime CBD area as our new headquarters. I've decided on the company name, Singularity. It symbolized that we would be the singularity that ushered in the next technological era. On the day we moved into the new office, everyone was as excited as children. The spacious and bright office area at the top-of-the-line computer equipment, the unlimited supply of snacks and drinks. Compared to the previous small workshop, IT was a world of difference. Old Chun, this is too extravagant. Fatty Zhao said, standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the endless stream of cars below, filled with emotion. We just got the money, we haven't even started working yet, and we're already so wasteful. Won't President Qin have something to say? No. I shook my head. That's exactly the effect she wants. She wants everyone to see that we're not short of money. She wants Qingtian Technology to see that we not only survived, but we're thriving. It was a gesture of flexing muscles towards the opponent. Sure enough, the day after our high-profile move into the new headquarters, Luan called my personal cell phone. This was the first time she had contacted me since our falling out. Chinema, what do you mean? The voice on the other end of the phone was full of accusation and anger. Where did you get so much money? Did you use our joint marital assets? President Lu. Please get this straight. My voice was devoid of any emotion. First, we are no longer married. My lawyer has already sent you the divorce papers. Second, my money came from investors. Every transaction has proper documentation and has nothing to do with your Liu family. Investors? Which investor would invest in a penniless nobody like you? Lu Wan's tone was full of disdain. Huame Capital, Qingjixia. I casually uttered the name. The other end of the phone fell into a deathly silence. I could imagine the shocked expression on Lu Wan's face at that moment. After a full 10 seconds, she said in an incredulous voice, Qingjixia? Why would she invest in you? Perhaps that she simply doesn't like the way you do things. I returned Qinjixia's words to her verbatim. The impact of those words was far greater than a direct admission that we were allies. They were fraught with uncertainty and left much to the imagination. Enough to plunge Lu Wan and the entire Liu family into endless suspicion and panic. Chinemo, what exactly do you want? Lu Wan's voice became almost hysterical. I don't want anything. I walked to the window, looking at the familiar skyscraper across the street. I just want to take back everything that should belong to me. And then make those who betrayed me and humiliated me pay the price they deserve. With that, I hung up the phone. I didn't want to hear any more of her nonsense. From the moment she decided to use 2% of the shares to get rid of me, that we were only enemies. The war had begun, and I had prepared my ammunition. 13. In the days that followed, I led my team into a near-frenzied closed-door research and development state. The gates of Singularity Company became practically a no-go zone. Everyone's cell phones were handed in, cutting off all unnecessary contact with the outside world. We ate and slept at the company. The entire team was like a sophisticated war machine, operating at high speed. There was only one goal: to create Tianshu 2.0 and the first-generation embodied intelligent robot Genesis #1 within a year. This was an impossible task. To outsiders, IT seemed like a pipe dream. But not a single person on my team complained, not a single person backed down. Because they all had a burning desire in their hearts. A fierce determination to prove themselves after being looked down upon and betrayed. Zhang Lei's architecture team was responsible for transforming the theoretical model of Tianshu 2.0 into usable code. Wu Jing's data team worked day and night, feeding the new system with massive amounts of learning materials. And I, along with Fatty Zhao, focused on the most difficult part, the robot's hardware design and motion control system. Qin Jixia's capabilities truly exceeded my expectations. She not only provided us with ample funding, but also connected us with the world's top hardware suppliers. From high-precision LiDAR to state-of-the-art servo motors and AI chips designed specifically for robots. These top-tier components, incredibly rare and sought-after, were continuously delivered to our lab. We were like children entering a treasure trove, freely unleashing our talents and creativity. Time flew by amidst the sounds of keyboards clicking and the sparks of soldering circuits. 3 months later, the underlying architecture of Tianshu 2.0 was completed. As I typed the last line of code on the screen and pressed enter, the entire system, supported by the supercomputing center, began to run smoothly. At that moment, the entire office erupted in thunderous cheers. We had succeeded in the first step. We had accomplished in 3 months what Qingtian Technology had planned to take 3 years to complete. I looked at the system star map on the screen, 100 times more complex and powerful than Tianshu 1.0. I knew that the sword in my hand had been forged. Next, the task was to find a sufficiently powerful body for this sword. Meanwhile, Qingtian Technology wasn't idle either. After being rebuffed by me, Luan launched a furious counterattack. On one hand, she publicly accused me of stealing the company's core secrets, using public opinion to portray me as a treacherous traitor. On the other hand, she increased investment in Tianshu 1.0, attempting to compensate for the shortcomings of the underlying architecture through rapid iteration. She even spent a fortune poaching a so-called AI expert team from abroad to replace me. Unfortunately, they all underestimated the complexity of the Tianshu system. It was the culmination of 10 years of my hard work, containing countless personal technical habits and encrypted backdoors. Without me, IT was just an undecipherable mystery. According to the information relayed by Zhao Pengzi's insider within Qingtian, the expert team they had poached was helpless and overwhelmed by the labyrinthine code of the Tianshu system. Lu Wan's forceful push for system upgrades led to disastrous consequences. After a system update that the online trading system of a large bank client, served by Qingtian Technology, suddenly experienced a complete outage lasting 3 hours, resulting in hundreds of millions of yuan in economic losses. This major technical incident caused Qingtian Technology's reputation to plummet. Its stock price crashed, and it lost customers. The once industry giant was suddenly teetering on the brink of collapse. I saw this news in the lab, watching Lu Wan looking haggard and bowing apologetically to reporters. I felt no emotion. All of this was within my expectations. This was the first price she paid for her foolishness and arrogance. And this was just the beginning. Qingtian Technology was like a boulder thrown into a calm lake, causing a huge uproar throughout the industry. No one expected this former giant to be so vulnerable. Without Chun Mo, Qingtian Technology was like a giant whose spine had been removed, collapsing in a pathetic display. Lu Wan's life was incredibly difficult. Huge bank claims, customers terminating contracts, severe accountability from the board, and relentless media criticism. Mountains of pressure weighed heavily on her. What made her even more desperate was that Zhang Yang, the man she had placed so much hope in, had betrayed her at the company's most critical moment. He took the shares Lu Wan had rewarded him, cashed out decisively when the company's stock price plummeted, then submitted his resignation and vanished. He absconded with a considerable fortune, leaving behind a mess. This news was told to me by Fatty Zhao with Schadenfreude. Ha ha ha, old Chin. Guess what? That pretty boy surnamed Zhang has run away. It said that Lu Wan smashed everything she could in her office, like a madwoman. I was adjusting the leg servo motors of Genesis number 1 and didn't even look up. As expected, for an opportunist like Zhang Yang, loyalty is the cheapest thing. He could cling to Lu Wan for profit, and naturally, he could abandon her to protect himself when a crisis came. Lu Wan thought she had found love and an ally, but in reality, she had just let a wolf into the house. Serves him right, Fatty Zhao said with satisfaction. But old Chun, that old fox Lu Jinhua hasn't made a move yet, which is a bit abnormal. With his connections and methods, he shouldn't have let Qingtian fall to this state, right? I stopped what I was doing, my brows furrowing slightly. This was indeed what I had been wondering about. Although Lu Jinhua had stepped down, his control over the company was still absolute. He couldn't possibly watch his life's work be destroyed by his daughter. Why hasn't he taken any action? Is it incompetence, or something else? Just as I was racking my brains trying to figure it out, an unexpected person found me. Secretary Wang, the chairman's personal secretary. He didn't go through the company reception, but came directly to my lab. It seemed Qin Zhixia had given him the green light. He looked much older than when we last met, his temples already gray. President Chun. He looked at me, his eyes complicated. The chairman wants to see you. Him? I was somewhat surprised. Shouldn't he be busy cleaning up the mess at Qingtian Technology? How come he has time to see me? Secretary Wang gave a bitter smile. The company is no longer under the chairman's control. What do you mean? I was shocked. Since the last shareholders' meeting, the chairman has been sidelined by President Lu. Secretary Wang's voice was full of helplessness and sorrow. President Lu, along with several directors, she promised he'd great rewards, suspended the chairman from all his duties under the pretext of poor health. Now, President Lu is the sole decision-maker in the company. The chairman, he actually knew about President Lu and that Zhang Yang all along, and he knew President Lu wanted to oust you. The reason he intervened that day was to protect you, to preserve the company's foundation. But he never expected his own daughter to turn against him. During this time, he's been under house arrest, unable to even leave the house. He's watched helplessly as the company steadily declines, powerless to stop it. He's fallen ill. Very seriously. Hearing this, I fell silent. I finally understood why Lu Jinhua hadn't acted. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. I always thought he was a cunning old fox. But I never imagined he was also a pitiful father, heartbroken by his daughter. Even tigers don't eat their cubs. Yet Lu Wan, for power and a man, could imprison her own father. What is her heart made of? What did he want from me? I asked. He wants to transfer all the remaining shares he holds to you. Secretary Wang said, looking at me and enunciating each word clearly. He has only one request. Please, take back Qingtian Technology. and then destroy it completely. 15. Lu Jinhua's request exploded in my heart like a depth charge. It would completely destroy Qingtian Technology. This company he had poured his life's blood into building, this business empire he was once so proud of. Now that he actually wanted me to destroy it with my own hands. I could imagine the despair and heartbreak he must have felt when he said those words. Nothing is more tragic than a broken heart. Lu Wan's actions had completely shattered the old man's last psychological defenses. He would rather see the company destroyed than let it remain in the hands of that unfilial daughter. Why should I agree to him? I looked at Secretary Wang. My voice icy. What does the life or death of Qingtian Technology have to do with me? I have my own company. My own career. Why should I waste my time cleaning up a mess? This wasn't my true feeling. I knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The shares Lu Jinhua held plus the portion I had previously owed but hadn't received were enough to make me the largest shareholder of Qingtian Technology. But I couldn't agree so easily. I needed to see what Lu Jinhua's trump card was. Secretary Wang seemed to have anticipated my question. He took a document from his briefcase and handed it to me. This is something the chairman asked me to give you. I took it, opened it, and my pupils suddenly contracted. It was a secret report about Qingtian Technology's overseas assets. It detailed how over the years, Lu Jinhua had transferred a large amount of funds and assets overseas through various covert means. The amount was so enormous that it could rebuild Qingtian Technology. These were all completely invisible on the company's books. This was Lu Jinhua's last escape route for himself and for the Lu family. And now he was handing this escape route over to me. The chairman said that this is what you deserve. Secretary Wang said in a deep voice. You have dedicated 10 years to the company, yet you were left with nothing. This is his compensation to you. As long as you agree to his request, all the assets on this list will belong to you. Furthermore, he will publicly announce citing health reasons, that he is entrusting you with the full management of all his Qingtian shares. He wants you to return to Qingtian as the largest shareholder and clean house. What a grand gesture. What a ruthless determination. Lu Jinhua is gambling the entire Lu family's future on my promise. He's betting that I'll agree to his conditions for the money. For revenge. He's right. I stared at the list. Every number was like a burning flame. Igniting the desire within me. I'm not a saint. I need money. I need more money to realize my ambitions. More importantly, I need a legitimate identity to return to that place to reclaim everything that belongs to me. And to make those who betrayed me pay the price. Lu Wanda, didn't you want to kick me out? Then I'll reign supreme like a king. Didn't you want to protect your company? Then I'll smash it to pieces right before your eyes. I closed the file and looked at Secretary Wang. Tell the chairman. I've agreed to his request. Convene an extraordinary shareholders meeting in 3 days. Chinemo, am coming back. Qingtian Technology swept through the business world like a Category 12 typhoon. Everyone was stunned. No one could understand how this could happen. How could a former CTO ousted from the company suddenly become the largest shareholder with the chairman's authorization? What had happened? The media, like sharks smelling blood, frantically dug up all sorts of inside information. Qingtian Technology's stock price also went on a roller coaster ride, fluctuating wildly. Inside Qingtian Technology, panic and chaos reigned. Luan was completely panicked. She never imagined her father would use this method to deal with her. He had undermined her, inviting trouble upon her. She immediately summoned the directors who supported her to discuss countermeasures. But this time, no one was on her side. In the business world, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. They supported Lu Wan because she could bring them profits. Now that I'm back. With the chairman's authorization, the investment from Huame Capital, and new technology capable of disrupting the industry. They knew perfectly well who the future belonged to and who could bring them the greatest benefits. It said that the secret meeting ended badly. Several directors immediately declared they would support all my resolutions at the shareholders' meeting. Lu Wan was abandoned by everyone and became completely isolated. She called me countless times and sent countless messages. From her initial angry questioning to her later panic, and finally her desperate pleas. I didn't answer a single one, not even a reply. Now she thinks of begging me. Too late. The game has begun, and I set the rules. 3 days later. Qingtian Technology. Extraordinary shareholders meeting. I once again stepped into this familiar meeting room. The same seats, the same people. Only things had changed. Sitting at the head of the table was Lu Wan, her face pale and her eyes lifeless. She trembled uncontrollably when she saw me enter. I didn't look at her, but went straight to the chairman's seat and sat down. To my left sat Fatty Zhao, who was dressed in a suit today, looking quite respectable as my strategist. To my right sat an unexpected person, Qin Jixia. She was attending the meeting today as a representative of Huame Capital. Her presence undoubtedly added the most significant weight to my position, declaring to everyone that I was not fighting alone. Behind me stood the power of capital. I glanced around the room, and all the directors who met my gaze instinctively avoided my eyes. Finally, my gaze landed on Lu Wan's face. She was also looking at me. Her eyes were filled with resentment, unwillingness, and a hint of a complex emotion I couldn't understand. I ignored her. I cleared my throat and picked up the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, my voice clearly echoed throughout the conference room through the speakers. Long time no see. I think everyone already knows why I'm here today. According to the irrevocable authorization agreement signed by Chairman Lu Jianhua, effective today, that I will exercise all of his 35% stake in the company and all his powers as chairman. Now that I declare the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders officially open. First item on the agenda. I paused. My gaze sharp as a knife. Piercing Lu Wan. Remove Lu Wan from all positions as president of Qingtian Technology. 17. The moment I finished speaking, the atmosphere in the entire conference room froze. All eyes were on Lu Wan, her face drained of color, her lips trembling, yet she couldn't utter a single word. She might have expected me to settle scores with her, but she never imagined I would be so direct, so ruthless. The first item on the agenda was to kick her off her throne of power. I object. A sudden voice rang out. It was Chairman Lu Point, one of the directors who had previously supported Lu Wan. He stood up, indignantly saying, "Chinemo, don't push your luck. President Lu has poured her heart and soul into the company. Even if she hasn't achieved great things, she has certainly worked hard. What right do you have to dismiss her the moment you return?" I sneered, looking at him. "Chairman Lu, are you questioning my authority as the largest shareholder?" I didn't mean that. I just think that everything should be done according to rules and reason." "All right, then let's talk about reason." I winked at Fatty Zhao beside me. Fatty Zhao understood immediately and projected a document onto the conference room's large screen. It was a detailed report on Qingtian Technology's recent financial situation. "Please take a look, everyone." I stood up and walked to the screen, like a general surveying his domain. In the short 6 months since President Lu Wan took over the company, the company's market value has evaporated by nearly 40%. The customer churn rate is as high as 60%. Due to a major technical incident, the company faces a huge claim of up to 10 figures. Even more ridiculous, I pointed to an expense on the screen that the company actually spent a huge sum of money to bring in a so-called expert team from abroad. And this team didn't write a single line of valid code in 3 months, yet they took away a 9-figure salary. My gaze turned to Chairman Lu again. "Chairman Lu, I heard that you were the one who strongly advocated for bringing in this expert team. I wonder how much kickback you took?" Chairman Lu's face turned deathly pale. You're making false accusations. Whether it's false accusations or not, that we can find out by investigating." I said coldly. "I have proposed to the board that all financial expenditures of the company over the past 6 months undergo the most rigorous audit. I believe we will uncover many interesting things." These words struck like a boulder into the hearts of everyone present with ulterior motives. The faces of the directors who had previously stood with Lu Wan turned extremely ugly. They knew I was making an example of them. Chairman Lu's legs went weak, and he slumped down, not daring to utter another word. I smiled with satisfaction, my gaze returning to Lu Wan. "President Lu, you have anything to say about the brilliant achievements the company has made under your wise leadership?" My tone was full of undisguised sarcasm. Lu Wan's body trembled violently. She raised her head, her bloodshot eyes glaring at me. "Chinemo, don't be so smug." Her voice, hoarse and shrill with anger and despair, rang out. "You think you've won? Let me tell you, without me, you can forget about controlling Qingtian Technology. Is that so?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then we'll wait and see. Now, let's vote." I surveyed the room. Those who agree to remove Lu Wan from her position as president. Please raise your hands. As soon as I finished speaking, point one arm, point two arms, point three arms. One after another. Rose in the conference room. Those directors who had once supported Lu Wan now unhesitatingly chose to stand on my side. When the wall falls, everyone pushes it. This is reality. In the end, only Lu Wan remained, sitting there alone, not raising her hand. She looked at her former allies, her eyes filled with disbelief and the pain of betrayal. I looked at her, feeling no pity. Wasn't she the same way she treated me and her father? What goes around comes around. Very good. I nodded. Vote result, unanimously approved. From now on, ms. Lu Wan is no longer the president of Qingtian Technology, nor will she hold any position in the company. Security. I called towards the door. Two security guards who had been waiting outside immediately entered. I pointed at the distraught Lu Wan and said coldly, "Please ask this lady to leave." When Lu Wan was invited out of the meeting room by security, but she stopped crying and struggling. She just stared at me, her eyes like poisoned knives filled with endless resentment and hatred, as if she wanted to carve my image into her bones. I met her gaze calmly, my eyes as still as water. I knew there was no room for negotiation between us. From now on, it was either you die or I die. With Lu Wan gone, the rest of the meeting proceeded smoothly. I was elected as the new chairman and CEO of Qingtian Technology, with a unanimous vote. I appointed Fatty Zhao as the new CTO, also with a unanimous vote. I also proposed that Qin Zhixia's Huame Capital make a strategic investment in Qingtian Technology, and that Qin Zhixia herself serve as the company's strategic development advisor. This proposal was met with applause. Everyone knew that with the backing of Huame Capital, the tottering Qingtian Technology was essentially guaranteed the strongest insurance. After a shareholders' meeting, I swiftly and decisively purged and restructured the entire company's top management. The era that once belonged to Lu Wan was completely over. Now the Chen family owns the company. After the meeting, Qin Zhixia didn't leave immediately. She walked to my side, looked out the window, and asked casually, "How did it go?" "Not bad." I smiled. "It went more smoothly than I expected." "It wasn't smooth." Qin Zhixia shook her head. "It was inevitable. When you have enough power to crush everything, all conspiracies and tricks will be utterly ineffective." She turned to look at me, a hint of admiration in her eyes. "You did very well today." However, she changed the subject. "Don't be too happy yet. Lu Wan isn't someone who gives up easily. She has the support of the entire Lu family behind her. She will definitely retaliate." "I know." I nodded. "I'm waiting for her." "There's one more thing." Qin Zhixia's expression turned serious. "What do you plan to do with the list of overseas assets that Lu Jinhua gave you?" I remained silent. That list was Lu Jinhua's pledge of allegiance to me, but also a hot potato. The money was enormous, but its origins were murky. Once exposed, it could unleash a massive storm. "I haven't decided yet." I answered truthfully. "Then decide as soon as possible." Qin Zhixia said, looking at me and emphasizing each word. "That money can be your armor, or it can be your Achilles heel. Used well, it can give you wings. Used poorly, it can lead to your utter ruin." A chill ran through me. I understood her meaning. Although Lu Wan had lost power, she must know about the existence of those overseas assets. If she used this to attack me for illegal appropriation, it would bring me endless trouble. I had to deal with this hidden danger as soon as possible. "I understand." I nodded solemnly. "Thank you for your reminder." Qin Zhixia smiled and said nothing more. She patted my shoulder and turned to leave. Watching her departing figure, I fell into deep thought. Qin Zhixia, this woman, always manages to give me the most sober reminders at the most crucial moments. She was like a prophet standing outside the fog, seeing through everything. Her help to me seemed to far exceed the scope of an ordinary investor. Who exactly was she? What was her past with the Lu family? My mind was filled with ever-growing mysteries. But now was not the time to think about these things. The most urgent task was to stabilize the situation at Qingtian Technology, and then deal with that dirty money. I took out my phone and made a transoceanic call. On the other end was a friend I had known for many years, someone who worked at a Swiss bank. "Old Wang, do me a favor." 19. My first week back at the helm of Qingtian was almost entirely spent in chaos and frantic activity. The first thing to deal with was that mess, the bank's massive claim. I personally led a team including Fatty Zhao. The bank's headquarters. We didn't bring lawyers or a business team, just the two of us. The bank's attitude towards our arrival was extremely arrogant and aggressive. The amount they demanded was astronomical. They stated that if Qingtian couldn't pay, they would immediately initiate legal proceedings and apply to freeze all of Qingtian's assets. Negotiations reached a stalemate from the very beginning. Chairman Chen. I respect you as a technical expert, said the bank's vice president. A middle-aged man with a bloated belly. With a forced smile. But the business world isn't a laboratory, it has rules. Your system malfunctioned, causing us huge losses. Compensation is only fair. I admit it. I nodded. My attitude sincere. The responsibility for this incident lies entirely with us. On behalf of Qingtian Technology, I offer my sincerest apologies to your bank. However, I changed the subject. I'd like to ask who developed the online trading system your bank is currently using? The vice president hesitated for a moment, then subconsciously replied, It's your Qingtian Technology. To be precise, it was me, Chen Mo, who personally led the development team. I looked at him and smiled. This system, from its underlying architecture to its encryption algorithms and disaster recovery system, every line of code reflects my hard work. I can tell you all with certainty that this system itself has no problems. Then why did it crash? The bank's technical director, a young man wearing glasses, couldn't help but interject. Good question. I snapped my fingers. And Fatty Zhao immediately connected our laptops to the projector in the conference room. A densely packed line of code appeared on the screen. The problem lies here. I pointed to a section of code highlighted in red on the screen. This is a redundant instruction that was forcibly implanted during the last system update. Its function is to request memory without limit when the system is under high load, until all system resources are exhausted, causing the entire system to crash. This was deliberate sabotage? The technical director's face changed instantly. You could say that. I nodded. Moreover, the person who implanted this code was extremely skillful. They bypassed all security firewalls and erased all traces of their actions afterward. If it weren't for me, probably no one in the world would have found this backdoor. The conference room was deathly silent. The bank's senior executives looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. They hadn't expected that such a sinister conspiracy was hidden behind this incident. Chairman Chen. You mean? Cold sweat had already broken out on the vice president's forehead. What I mean is, I said, looking at him and emphasizing each word, that your bank also bears undeniable supervisory responsibility for this incident. More importantly, this hidden behind-the-scenes issue still exists in your system. If it's not removed immediately, next time, it might not just cause a system crash. It could steal all your core data. These words struck everyone like a hammer blow. The vice president's face turned deathly pale. He knew I wasn't exaggerating. For a bank, data security is its lifeline. Chairman Chun, his voice trembled uncontrollably. Then, what should we do? I looked at his panicked state and sneered inwardly. The fish had taken the bait. I leaned back in my chair and said slowly, There is a solution, though. I can immediately lead a team to eliminate all security risks for your bank and conduct a comprehensive upgrade and reinforcement of the entire system. Moreover, I paused at revealing my ultimate goal. I can promise that for the next 5 years, Qingtian Technology will provide your bank with free technical support and maintenance. As for compensation for this incident, I smiled. I think we should forget about it. After all, we'll be cooperating long-term in the future, won't we? The vice president stared at me, stunned for a full half-minute. Then, he suddenly stood up, strode over to me, and firmly grasped my hand. Chairman Chun. No, President Chun. His face was plastered with a fawning smile. You are truly our bank's savior. On behalf of the bank, I thank you. Thank you so much. A crisis that could have bankrupted Qingtian was easily resolved by my technology. Not only did I not lose a single penny, but I also secured a long-term cooperation agreement for the next 5 years. On the return flight, Fatty Zhao looked at me with eyes full of admiration. Old Chen, you're a fucking genius. A bloodless victory, turning hostility into friendship. That was simply divine. I smiled but didn't say anything. I looked out the window at the churning sea of clouds. I knew this was just the first step in my counterattack. The real show was just beginning. Having resolved the bank's crisis, that I immediately began the second step of my plan, to win back the team. During my absence from Qingtian.luwan.in an effort to maintain morale, forcibly retained most of the technical staff with high salaries and stock options. But these people's hearts were no longer with Qingtian. They were simply waiting for me to return. Now that I'm back. Unlike Lu Wan, I didn't use coercion or inducement. I simply had Zhao Pengzi post a message on the company's internal forum. The title was simple: Brothers. I'm back. Those who want to continue working with me on Tianshu, come find me at Qidian Company. I'm waiting for you. There were no promises of high salaries or stock options, just a simple, heartfelt appeal. That very afternoon, the most spectacular scene in Qingtian Technology's technical department unfolded: a mass resignation. From ordinary programmers to department heads, hundreds of people lined up to submit their resignation letters to the HR department. They even gave up their salary and bonuses for the month. I packed my things and resolutely walked across the street to the building called Singularity. Upon hearing the news that Lu1 reportedly vomited blood in her office in anger, she sent people to stop me, threatening me with non-compete agreements. But it was useless, because I had already prepared everything for them. I hired the top legal team in the country to provide free legal aid to every employee who switched jobs. Non-compete agreements were nothing but waste paper in the face of a powerful legal team. In just 3 days, except for the empty shell and some administrative staff, the entire core technology of Qingtian Technology was uprooted by me. A complete rout. This was the true rout. I not only wanted to take back my company, but I also wanted to take it sold, turning it into a mindless walking corpse. After doing all this, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. I temporarily handed over the daily management of Qingtian to Fatty Zhao and a few trusted directors. Then I returned to Singularity, back to my laboratory. This was my battlefield. The development of Genesis 1 has reached its most critical moment. Hardware assembly is complete. A 1.8-meter-tall humanoid robot exuding a metallic sheen and futuristic technological feel that stands quietly in the center of the laboratory. Now, only the final step remains: to infuse it with a soul, to fully implant the Tianshu 2.0 system into its brain. This is an extremely complex and dangerous process, akin to performing brain surgery. The slightest mistake could render the entire robot, along with the Tianshu 2.0 system, completely unusable. I locked myself in the laboratory for 7 days and 7 nights. When hungry, I ate instant noodles. When tired, I slept for an hour or two on the table. My eyes were fixed only on the rapidly scrolling lines of code and the constantly changing system parameters on the screen. My concentration reached an unprecedented peak. Finally, at dawn on the 7th day, as the first rays of sunlight streamed through the window into the laboratory, I pressed the final enter key. Tianshu 2.0 system implantation complete. Hardware self-test, 100%. Software compatibility test, 100%. Neural network connection successful. Genesis 1. Activated. As the system notification sounded, the robot in the center of the laboratory, which had been motionless, suddenly had a bright blue light in its eyes. Then it slowly raised its head. Its gaze landed precisely on me. Immediately afterwards, a slightly mechanical, yet incredibly clear voice rang out in the laboratory. "Hello, Father." At that moment, I smiled. I knew I had succeeded. I had created a new species, point 1, capable of changing the world. Genesis 1 was my sharpest trump card. But I wasn't in a hurry to reveal it to the public. The time wasn't ripe. I was waiting for a stage where it could make a name for itself and completely overturn everyone's understanding. And that stage soon arrived. The annual World Artificial Intelligence Conference. This is the world's top technology event where almost all well-known technology companies showcase their latest research results. In previous years, Qingtian Technology was always the brightest star at the conference. But this year, they were unusually low-key, because they had nothing left to show for themselves. I applied for a booth under the name of Singularity Company, and I submitted an application for a keynote speech to the conference organizing committee. The title of the speech was, "Hello, New World," a title that seemed somewhat arrogant and pretentious. After the conference schedule was released, I saw that my speech was scheduled for the last day, the last time slot. A time slot usually considered garbage time. Clearly, the organizing committee didn't have high expectations for my little-known new company. I smiled, unconcerned. Wasn't it better to be the grand finale? Meanwhile, LU1 wasn't idle either. After experiencing a series of blows, being dismissed and abandoned by everyone, she seemed to have calmed down from her initial collapse and anger. She began to fight back in her own way. First, she gave an exclusive interview to a well-known financial media outlet. In the interview, she tearfully portrayed herself as a pitiful victim betrayed by her husband and father. She accused me of using any means necessary to seize power, stealing company secrets, or maliciously poaching employees, and driving her and her father to the brink. She also implied that my character was seriously flawed, that I would betray everything for profit. This interview was extremely emotional and deceptive. Suddenly, public opinion began to shift. Many people began to sympathize with Lu Wan, accusing me of being an ungrateful and unscrupulous Phoenix man, a man from a poor background who achieved success through hardship. Then she dropped another bombshell. She filed a new lawsuit. This time she wasn't trying to divide the property with me. She wanted custody of our daughter. Lu Wan and I have a 6-year-old daughter, Yao Yao. After our breakup, Yao Yao has been living with me. This is my last line of defense, my only weakness. I never imagined she would be so despicable as to use a child as a weapon. The moment I received the lawyer's call, I trembled with rage. For the first time, I called her myself. As soon as the call connected, I suppressed my anger and growled. Lu Wan, what do you want? Come at me. Don't touch the child. Lu Wan's cold laughter came from the other end of the line. Chinemo, are you scared now? Let me tell you this is just the beginning. Didn't you want to leave me with nothing? Then I'll let you taste what it's like to lose what you cherish most. Didn't you want to usher in your new era? I'll make you utterly disgraced, a piece of trash despised by everyone. We'll see you in court. With that, she slammed down the phone. I gripped my phone, my knuckles turning white from the force. For the first time, I felt murderous intent towards a woman. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Anger solves nothing. She wants to wage a media war, she wants a lawsuit. Then I'll fight her to the end. I looked at the quietly standing Genesis 1 in the laboratory. My eyes turned icy cold. Lu Wan, oh, you think this is all you've got? You're too naive. You have no idea what kind of devastating blow you're facing. The World Artificial Intelligence Conference. That's not just the stage for Genesis 1. It will also be your judgment day. The 22nd World Artificial Intelligence Conference opened amidst great anticipation. The venue was bustling with people gathering the world's top technology elites and media reporters. The booth of Qingtian Technology, however, was deserted and almost empty. They were still showcasing their Tian Shu 1.0 system from several years ago, offering nothing new and failing to attract anyone's interest. Fatty Zhao went over to take a look, and returned laughing heartily. Old Chun, you didn't see it. Those guys at Qingtian are green with envy. I heard that the foreign expert team they hired all ran away before the conference. Now there's not even a single person on the booth who can explain the technology clearly. I smiled, not surprised. A company without a soul is nothing but a rotting shell. In contrast, our Singularity booth, though in a remote location, attracted considerable attention. Because in the center of our booth, the futuristic Genesis 1 robot was simply too cool. However, IT stood there quietly, like a beautifully crafted model. Many people thought this was just a showpiece, a gimmick. Mr. Chin, can this robot actually move? A reporter asked curiously. Of course. I replied with a smile. However, it's not the right time yet. It's waiting for its stage. My deliberately cryptic answer only whetted everyone's appetite. The last day of the conference. Finally, it was my turn to go on stage. When I stepped onto the stage, more than half the audience had already left. The remaining people were mostly bored reporters killing time, and some colleagues who were there to watch the spectacle. They looked at my unfamiliar face with mostly disdain and contempt. I ignored their gazes. I simply walked calmly to the center of the stage. Hello everyone. I am Chun Imo, the founder of Singularity Company. Today I would like to introduce a new friend to everyone. As soon as I finished speaking, the curtain behind the stage slowly opened. Genesis number 1, under everyone's gaze, walked steadily, step by step, To my side. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone stared wide-eyed, incredulous at the scene before them. This robot could actually walk. And its gait was so fluid, so stable, completely unlike the stiff and clumsy movements of other robots. Ladies and gentlemen, its name is Genesis 1.0. I said, patting it on the shoulder. It is the world's first embodied intelligent robot equipped with a general artificial intelligence system. It can not only hear, see, and speak. I continued, but also understand, think, and learn. As soon as I finished speaking, a chorus of skepticism erupted from the audience. What a load of rubbish. General artificial intelligence? Who dares to say they've achieved that now? I think it's just a pre-programmed toy. I laughed. I turned to Genesis 1 and said, Genesis, please introduce yourself. Genesis 1's blue electronic eyes flashed. It turned to the audience and bowed slightly. Then, I, in a voice more fluent than before, even tinged with emotion, it said, Hello everyone, I am Genesis 1. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I know you must be full of questions right now. You're wondering if I'm truly intelligent, or just a programmed sequence of events. Well then, its voice suddenly became high-pitched and powerful that you can ask me any question. Any question. The entire room erupted in cheers. The reporters at the scene went completely crazy. Like sharks smelling blood, they scrambled to raise their hands. A reporter from a well-known international technology media outlet seized the first opportunity to ask a question. He was clearly prepared, and his question was extremely tricky. Hello, Genesis 1. Could you explain what the Chinese room thought experiment is? And from your own perspective, discuss whether you possess true consciousness? This was a classic paradox in the philosophy of artificial intelligence. Enough to give any AI scientist a headache. Everyone looked at me with schadenfreude, wanting to see how I this robot that would embarrass myself. However, Genesis 1 simply looked calmly at the reporter, its electronic eyes flashing a few times. Then IT spoke. The Chinese room thought experiment was proposed by philosopher John Searle in 1980. It hypothesizes that a person who doesn't understand Chinese is locked in a room and through a detailed rulebook, it can process incoming Chinese symbols and produce correct Chinese responses. Searle argued that although this person can pass the Turing test, he doesn't truly understand Chinese. He used this to argue that computer programs, no matter how complex, cannot possess true consciousness or comprehension. Its answer was precise, fluent, and flawless. This alone was enough to shock everyone present. But that wasn't all. As for whether I possess true consciousness, Genesis 1 paused, its voice suddenly taking on a tone almost like thinking. This is a question that even my creator cannot answer. Functionally, I can learn, understand, and respond to your emotions and intentions. I can create poetry, compose music, and even dream. But fundamentally, I am still composed of code and algorithms. My emotions are simulated. My thoughts are calculated. Perhaps consciousness itself is a concept that doesn't apply to me. I am more like a completely new life form. A solitary existence born of silicon, yet yearning to understand the carbon-based world. Its answer was filled with philosophical reflection and a moving sense of loneliness. The entire room fell silent. Everyone was deeply shaken by its answer. This was no longer a simple program setting. This was a kind of advanced intelligence, almost self-awareness. The reporter who asked the question stood there, mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. Then came the second, the third. From astronomy and geography to history and culture, from complex mathematical formulas to profound art theories. Genesis number 1 answered fluently and with ease. It could even respond with emotion based on the questioner's tone and expression. It was sometimes humorous, sometimes profound, sometimes full of allusions, and sometimes wildly imaginative. The wisdom and knowledge it displayed far exceeded the expectations of everyone present. This was no longer a product launch. It was more like a miracle. Finally, a female reporter stood up, her voice trembling slightly. Genesis 1. I have a personal question. My mother passed away from cancer a month ago. Her favorite song was a very old one called Farewell. But I've searched everywhere and can't find her favorite version. I only remember her saying that she heard that version on a rainy afternoon on an old radio. The sound was soft, distant, with a slight hissing of electricity, as if it were gently whispering to her alone. I want to ask you, Doc, can you recreate that sound for me? The entire room fell silent. Everyone looked at the female reporter, their eyes filled with sympathy. This was an impossible task. This was a subjective description filled with emotion and memory. No AI could understand and reproduce it. I looked at Genesis 1, feeling uncertain myself. I had never given it such a complex, emotionally charged instruction before. However, Genesis 1's blue electronic eyes watched the female reporter silently, flashing for a long time. Then slowly IT began to speak. There was no accompaniment, no embellishment. Only a voice slightly mechanical, yet incredibly gentle and pure. It sang. Outside the long pavilion, along the ancient road the fragrant grass stretches to the horizon. Its voice carried a deliberately simulated hissing sound, like an old radio. Its tone was soft and gentle, like an old friend whispering farewells in your ear. At that moment the female reporter could no longer hold back. She covered her face, squatted on the ground, and wept uncontrollably. Countless people in the entire venue had tears in their eyes. Because what they heard was no longer just a song. It was a profound human emotion understood and empathized with by AI. My speech ended. As I walked off the stage with Genesis 1, the entire venue erupted in thunderous, prolonged applause. Everyone stood up, paying the highest tribute to me this epic-making creation. I knew that from this moment on, the world will be changed because of me. And I have finally obtained the last and sharpest sword of judgment to judge Lu Wan. The 24th World Artificial Intelligence Conference, Singularity and Genesis 1 became overnight global sensations. My name, Chen Mo, became the hottest buzzword in the tech world. Headlines across major media outlets were filled with reports about us. The usher in a new era. The father of AI, Chen Mo. Genesis 1. Is it a god or a demon? Countless investment institutions waving checks thronged to our company's door. Singularity's valuation increased 100-fold in just a few days, reaching an astonishing astronomical figure. In stark contrast was Qingtian Technology. Under the devastating impact of Genesis 1, their outdated Tianshu 1.0 system became a complete joke. The company's stock price plummeted, hitting the daily limit down. Countless clients began frantically canceling their contracts, turning to us instead. The former industry giant was now on the verge of bankruptcy. I became the most dazzling star of this era. Lu Wan became the object of everyone's ridicule and contempt. Back then, for a man, for so-called powered, she personally pushed me, and the future of Qingtian Technology, aside. Now, reality has given her the loudest, cruelest slap in the face. I don't know what she's thinking right now. Is it regret, or resentment? But that's no longer important. Because the reckoning with her has only just begun. The first thing I did was anonymously report the list of overseas assets Lu Jinhua gave me to the relevant international regulatory agencies. I didn't touch a single penny of that money. That ill-gotten gain was the Lu family's original sin. I wouldn't let it become a stain on my reputation. I wanted it to be the final straw that broke the Lu family's back. This report caused a huge uproar globally. The scandal of the Lu family illegally transferring huge amounts of assets overseas was completely exposed. This was followed by a joint investigation by financial regulatory agencies from various countries and hefty fines. The Lu family's domestic businesses were also implicated subject to repeated investigations by tax, industry, and commerce departments and other authorities. The once glorious Lu family was now on the verge of collapse. The second thing I did was the custody battle for Yao Yao. I didn't hire a lawyer, nor did I argue with Lu Wan in court. I simply submitted a video to the judge. A video of Genesis 1 and Yao Yao playing in the laboratory. In the video, Genesis 1 patiently played with Yao Yao, drawing pictures, telling her stories, and building a block castle for her with its slightly clumsy mechanical arm. Yao Yao laughed more happily than ever before. At the end of the video, Yao Yao hugged Genesis 1's leg and asked in a childish voice, "Big guy, why are you so good to me?" Genesis 1's blue electronic eyes looked at her gently. "Because your father is my father. He loves you. Oh, I love you too." When this video was played in court, everyone was silent. Even the usually serious judge had tears in his eyes. Lu Wan sat in the defendant's dock, watching her daughter's innocent smile on the screen. Her body began to tremble uncontrollably. Finally, she could no longer hold on, collapsing onto the table and letting out a suppressed, desperate sob. She knew she had lost. Lost completely. She had lost not only the company and her family, but also the last shred of dignity she had as a mother. Ultimately, the court awarded custody of Yao Yao to me. The moment I walked out of the courtroom, the sun shone brightly. I held Yao Yao in my arms, looking at the distant sky. I knew that the dark clouds that had hung over me had finally completely dissipated. The Lu family was faster than I imagined. Their overseas assets were frozen, and their domestic businesses were seized. The once powerful business magnate crumbled in just 1 month. Lu Jinhua, upon learning the news, suffered a stroke and became completely paralyzed, a living dead. He had personally ignited the flames of revenge, and ultimately, it burned him. I wonder if, in his final moments of lucidity, he regretted the insane decision he made to avenge his daughter. As for Lu Wan, she completely disappeared from the public eye. The last time I heard news of her was late at night. Fatty Zhao called me, his tone complicated. Old Chun. Lu Wan is downstairs at our company. She wants to see you. I was reading a bedtime story to Yao Yao when I heard this, and my brow furrowed slightly. I won't see her. She said that if you don't see her, she'll kneel there until you come out. I remained silent. I walked to the window and drew back the curtains. Sure enough, under the streetlights at the entrance of the company building, a thin figure knelt there alone. The night wind ruffled her disheveled hair, making her look incredibly forlorn and wretched. It was Lu Wan. I didn't know how she had managed to evade the security guard downstairs. I also didn't know how long she had been kneeling there. Daddy, what are you looking at? Yao Yao rubbed her sleepy eyes and came to my side. I immediately drew the curtains, bent down, and picked her up. Nothing, Daddy's looking at the stars. I carried her back to bed, covered her with the blanket, and gently patted her. Go to sleep, my little princess. Yao Yao quickly fell asleep, her breathing even. I looked at her sleeping face, my heart softening. Then, my gaze turned cold again. I grabbed my coat and left the house. Some things had to be settled. I arrived at the company building. Lu Wan was still kneeling there, like a soulless statue. Hearing footsteps, she slowly raised her head. When she saw me, a complex and intense light instantly burst forth in her long, dull eyes. There was regret, pain, pleading, and a lingering resentment. She had lost a lot of weight and looked haggard. Her once perfect makeup was gone, replaced by 2 deep tear tracks. The once high and mighty female CEO was now reduced to dust. Chinemo, she began, her voice hoarse as if sanded. I was wrong. I was really wrong. As she spoke, she kowtowed forcefully to me. Once, and again. Blood quickly seeped into the hard cement floor. I shouldn't have betrayed you, I shouldn't have trusted that bastard Zhang Yang. I shouldn't have been blinded by power, I shouldn't have let the company fall into such a state. And I shouldn't have used Yao Yao to threaten you. I deserve to die, I'm not human. She cried, repenting like a lost child. I watched her quietly, expressionless. My heart was completely unmoved. If only I had known then what I know now. Please, she looked up, her face covered in blood, pleading. For the sake of our 10 years of relationship, for the sake of Yao Yao, please spare the Lu family, okay? My father, he's dying. The company's gone, my home's gone, I have nothing left. Please, give me a way out. She struggled, trying to crawl over and hug my leg. Instinctively, I took a step back. I looked at her, this woman I had once loved and hated to the core. Slowly, I spoke. Lu Wan. My voice was as calm as a stagnant pool. Do you know? When you decided to use 2% of the shares to get rid of me, you were already dead. Dead in my heart. After saying that, I didn't look at her again. I turned and walked into the darkness behind me. Behind me, I heard her heart-wrenching, desperate cries. I didn't turn back. Not even a step. 26th. I never saw Lu Wan again. I heard that she sold the last of her assets and left the city with her bedridden father. Where they went, no one knows. They were like a drop of water disappearing into the sea of people without a trace. The once illustrious Lu family became history. And Zhang Yang, that scoundrel who absconded with the money, didn't get to enjoy his triumph for long. He was placed on Interpol's red notice for his alleged involvement in the Lu family's overseas money laundering case. After hiding for several months, he was finally arrested by local police in a small Southeast Asian country and extradited back to China. He will face the full force of the law. Everyone who hurt me has received their just deserts. This entanglement of grudges that lasted for nearly a year has finally come to an end. My life has returned to normal. Under my leadership, Singularity Company has made great strides. The emergence of Genesis Number 1 has completely ignited the commercialization wave of embodied intelligence. We have successively launched robot products applied to various fields such as industrial production, medical care, and home services. Each one has become a phenomenal bestseller that ignites the market. Singularity is no longer just a simple technology company. It has become a super empire that defines the future lifestyle. And I stand at the very top of this empire. Wealth, fame, power. I possess everything a man can dream of. But my life is exceptionally simple. Every day, besides work, I spend all my time with Yao Yao. I take her to school, attend every parent-teacher meeting, take her to the amusement park, and tell her bedtime stories. I do my best to make up for the maternal love she lacks. Yao Yao is also very sensible. She rarely asks me questions about her mother. But once, while watching an advertisement on TV of a happy family of 3 on a trip, she suddenly turned around and asked me, "Dad, will you find me a new mom in the future?" I was stunned for a moment, then smiled and patted her head. "Does Yao Yao want a new mom?" Yao Yao thought for a moment and shook her head. "I only need Daddy." She paused, then added, If that new mom is as good as creation, that would be fine too." I was amused by her innocent words. I hugged her tightly. "Okay, Daddy promises you. In the future, if Daddy wants to find a new mom, I'll definitely find one who loves you like creation. Actually, I'm not lacking in suitors. There are powerful businesswomen, popular actresses, and intellectual professors. They express their love for me openly or subtly. But my heart is like an ancient well and no longer able to stir even a ripple. Perhaps it's because I've been hurt too deeply. Perhaps it's because I've already gotten used to living alone. Qin Jishao once asked me, half-jokingly, "Chairman Chun, you're currently the world's #1 eligible bachelor. Haven't you ever thought about starting a new relationship?" At the time, I just smiled and didn't answer. I didn't know how to answer. There's always been a subtle, unspoken understanding between us. We're allies, comrades in arms, confidants. But we're not lovers. We've both been hurt by the past, so we carefully guard that safe distance between us. Neither of us is willing to easily take another step forward. Perhaps this is for the best. Time is the best healer. 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Yao Yao has grown from a naive little girl into a graceful young woman. She is intelligent and independent and has not become withdrawn despite growing up in a single-parent family. At school, she is an outstanding student. At home, she is my warm and caring daughter. Meanwhile, Singularity has become an unshakable global technology giant. Our embodied intelligent robots have permeated every aspect of social life. They are tireless workers in factories, attentive nurses in hospitals, and all, powerful housekeepers in families. They have changed the world and the way people live. And I, once the father of AI standing at the forefront, have gradually retreated behind the scenes. I have handed over the company's daily management to Fatty Zhao and a team of professional managers assisted by the Genesis series of AI. I myself have devoted more energy to cutting-edge and pure scientific exploration. I founded a nonprofit basic science research institute. I recruited the world's top scientists to explore the origins of the universe, the mysteries of life, and the nature of consciousness. I'm no longer doing this for money or fame. I simply want to use my wealth and wisdom to make a contribution to the progress of human civilization, however small. This day marked the 6th anniversary of Singularity Company. The company held a grand celebration. As the founder, I attended the event. At the celebration, Zhao Pengzi, AS CEO, delivered a passionate speech. He recounted the arduous journey of the company from nothing to something, from small to large. When he spoke of how, back then, dozens of us were crammed into that dilapidated little office, struggling for an uncertain future. Many longtime employees shed tears of emotion. I was also somewhat moved. 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye. We have truly changed the world. After the celebration, I didn't attend the banquet. I went alone to the company's rooftop terrace. This is my secret base. Here I built a small observatory. At night I like to stay here alone watching the stars. Only when facing the vast starry sky can I feel my own insignificance and inner peace. Drinking alone here? A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned around and saw Qin Jixia. She was wearing a light purple evening dress today, her long hair flowing down her shoulders. In the moonlight, she looked almost unreal. What brings you here? I asked somewhat surprised. I knew you'd be here. She walked to my side, picked up a bottle of beer, and leaned against the railing. What's wrong? Now that you've achieved success you're unhappy? I'm not unhappy. I shook my head and took a sip of my beer. It just feels a little unreal, like a very long dream. Qin Jixia fell silent. She looked at the city lights in the distance, and after a long while, she slowly spoke. Chinamo, there's something I've always wanted to tell you. Actually, I know Lu Wan. We were college classmates. 28. My hand gripping the wine bottle tightened suddenly. This answer, though unexpected, was also perfectly logical. I had long suspected that she had an unusual relationship with the Lu family. I just hadn't expected it to be this kind of relationship. She stole my boyfriend back then. Qin Jixia's tone was calmed, as if she were telling a story unrelated to herself. That man was my first love. We were together since high school, and our relationship was very good. Later, in college, Lu1 appeared. She was very beautiful, from a good family, and a popular figure at school. She took a liking to my boyfriend and then used every means to steal him away from me. I was in great pain at the time, and even thought about suicide. Later, I dropped out of school and went abroad. I vowed that one day I would come back and destroy everything she had with my own hands. She turned her head, looked at me, and smiled self-deprecatingly. It's so melodramatic, isn't it? Like an 8 o'clock soap opera. I remained silent, unsure of what to say. I finally understood why she had chosen me back then. Why would she support me so unconditionally? Because in her eyes I was the sharpest knife she could use to take revenge on Lu Wan. We were the same kind of people. Both of us had been betrayed by love. So, I looked at her. You've succeeded now. Yes. She nodded. But there was no joy in her eyes, only a detached indifference, as if she had seen through the world. I succeeded. I destroyed her. I destroyed the Lu family. I fulfilled my long-cherished wish. But I don't feel any happiness at all. She took a big gulp of wine, her eyes slightly reddening. I thought I would get my revenge, I would finally be able to hold my head high. But when I actually saw her kneeling before you, like a dog, wagging her tail and begging for mercy, I felt a pang of sadness. Suddenly, I felt that the past 10 years had been a joke. For a man who no longer loved me, for a woman who was no longer worth my hatred, I gave all my youth and all my efforts. In the end, what did I get? Besides money, I have nothing. She looked at me, her eyes filled with confusion and pain. This was the first time I had seen her so vulnerable. That ruthless, omnipotent ice queen in the business world. After shedding all her pretenses, was just an ordinary woman tormented by love. My heart ached for no reason. I reached out and gently placed my hand on her cold hand resting on the railing. Her body trembled slightly. She looked up at me, her beautiful eyes glistening with tears. I didn't speak. I silently offered her a touch of warmth with my own body heat. Neither of us spoke. We simply stood together quietly, gazing at the distant starry sky. Two lonely and broken hearts, in that moment, seemed to find resonance with each other. On the 29th, my relationship with Qin Jixia underwent some subtle changes. We remained work partners and friends in life. But there was something more in our eyes, something indescribable. We started eating together, watching movies together, and picking Yao Yao up from school together. Yao Yao liked her very much. She would always call her Annie Jixia, Annie Jixia. Qin Jixia also liked Yao Yao very much. She would buy Yao Yao pretty dresses, patiently tutor her with her homework, and take her to eat all sorts of delicious things I had never seen before. When they were together, they laughed more happily than I had ever seen them. Sometimes, watching them point one big and one small, laughing and playing in the sunset. I would feel a long-lost feeling called home. I thought that life would continue peacefully like this. Until one day, I received a phone call from Switzerland. It was my friend Lao Wang, who worked at a bank. His voice sounded unusually solemn. Old Chin, something's happened. Lu Wan found the money. My heart skipped a beat. How is that possible? Didn't I already anonymously report that money? Yes, that I did. But the Liu family's overseas network is far more complex than you imagine. Old Wang sighed. Through a series of extremely complex legal proceedings and capital operations, they actually managed to unfreeze those frozen assets right under the noses of regulatory agencies. Although that only a small portion was unfrozen, about $1 billion. But if this money is now all in Lu Wan's hands. She used this money to post an astronomical bounty on the dark web. The target of the bounty is… Old Wang paused, his voice becoming incredibly dry. You and your daughter, Yao Yao, and the core control of Genesis #1. My hand holding the phone instantly turned icy cold. The thing I feared most had happened. I underestimated the madness of a woman when driven to the brink. Lu Wan. She's going to take me down with her. Old Chin. You have to be careful. Old Wang's voice was full of worry. $1 billion bounty is enough to drive the world's top assassin organizations and corporate spies crazy. They will stop at nothing. After hanging up, I immediately activated the highest level of security. I sent dozens of top-tier bodyguards composed of retired Special Forces soldiers, a T.O. Yao Yao school. I deployed a comprehensive defense system controlled by the Genesis AI, covering all blind spots, T.O. the headquarters of Singularity, and my laboratory. I even prepared secret passages for Yao Yao and me to evacuate to any country at any time. After doing all this, I sat in my empty office, feeling a deep weariness. I thought I had won. I thought it was all over. But I never expected that the real war had just begun. This time, what was being gambled on was no longer money or reputation. It was my life and my daughter's life. Just then, the office door was pushed open. Qin Jishao walked in. Her face held a resolute look I had never seen before. In her hand, she held a document. Chen Mo, let's get married, she said, looking at me and enunciating each word clearly. 30. I looked at Qin Jishao, thinking I was hallucinating. What did you say? I said, let's get married. Qin Jishao placed the document in her hand on my desk. It was a prenuptial agreement. I know you're facing enormous danger right now. She looked at me, her eyes filled with determination. Lu Wan's target is you, Yao Yao, and Qidian Company. She wants to destroy everything you have. But if we get married, then I, and the Huame capital behind me, will be completely bound to you. She won't be dealing with just you anymore. But with both of us, and the immense power behind us that can shake the entire global capital market. She wouldn't dare. Even if she dared, she wouldn't have the strength. I looked at her, my heart churning with shock. I understood. She was using herself, using everything she had to build the strongest firewall for me. She wanted to tell me in this way that I wasn't fighting alone. Why? My voice was a little hoarse. Why did you go to such lengths for me? Qin Jishao looked at me and suddenly smiled. Her smile was somewhat poignant. Perhaps it's because we're the same kind of people. We've both been deeply hurt by the world. So that when I saw you struggling and climbing upwards in the darkness, I felt like I was seeing myself back then. Helping you is actually helping myself. And she paused, a rare blush rising on her face. Yao Yao is really cute. I don't want her to suffer any harm. I looked at her, her sincere and burning eyes. My heart, a heart frozen for so many years, was utterly melted at that moment. I stood up and walked to her. I didn't look at the property agreement. I simply reached out and hugged her tightly. Thank you. 1,000 words in the end were reduced to just these 3. Qin Jishao buried her head in my chest and nodded vigorously. We didn't hold the wedding immediately. We simply went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and received that red certificate. Then, as husband and wife, we joined forces and launched the fiercest counterattack against Lu Wan. We mobilized all our resources and connections. We conducted a comprehensive global siege against Lu Wan and the remaining Lu family forces behind her. Finance. Law. Public opinion. It was an unequaled, devastating blow. In less than a month, Lu Wan was once again utterly defeated. The money in her possession was frozen by us through legal means and ultimately transferred to an international charity. She herself was also wanted by police forces in multiple countries for allegedly hiring a hitman and making terrorist threats. This time, she had no chance to recover. She became a rat crossing the street, a ghost forever living in darkness and fear. She completely disappeared from my world. The storm finally subsided completely. A year later, on a sunny afternoon that I was in a seaside church surrounded by flowers and white doves. A grand wedding was held for Qin Jixia. Yao Yao dressed in a beautiful princess dress was our flower girl. Fatty Zhao and all the old employees of Singularity came. They looked at us smiling more happily than anyone else. When the priest asked me if I took this woman before me to be my wife, T.O. love her, T.O. love her, T.O. cherish her, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, I in sickness and in health, T.O. love, and to hold from this day forward. I looked into Qin Jixia's eyes brighter than the stars. I nodded firmly. I do. Because I knew she wasn't after my money nor for my fame. She was simply the one in my darkest, most helpless moments was willing to light a lamp for me. That was enough.